My name is Gabriella Rossi. I'm 28. Last Tuesday at 6:14 a.m., I was standing in the break room at Meridian Insurance, making my third cup of coffee in 2 hours, when my phone rang. My father. I almost didn't answer. I should have known better. Gabriella, I need you to understand something. His voice had that edge, the one that made my shoulders tense before he even finished the sentence. Your sister called me last night, crying. Again. Because of you. Dad, I haven't even talked to Jennifer in 3 weeks. Don't interrupt me. The sharpness cut through the line. She told me you've been spreading lies about her at family gatherings, telling cousins she doesn't help the family, that she's selfish. My stomach dropped. I never said that. I wasn't even at Uncle Marco's barbecue last weekend. I was working a double shift Saturday and doing bookkeeping clients on Sunday. I can show you my always with the excuses. He sighed, and I could picture him shaking his head in that disappointed way that used to make me apologize for things I didn't do. You know what your problem is, Gabriella? You've always been jealous of your sister. Ever since you were kids. She's successful, she's got her life together, and you're still… He paused. Well, we all see where you are. I was standing in a break room that smelled like burnt coffee and cleaning solution, wearing a blazer I'd ironed at 5 a.m., about to coordinate a department meeting for 40 people. I'd been promoted to senior administrative coordinator 8 months ago. I had 3 rental properties generating $4,200 in passive income monthly. My credit score was 782, but I didn't say any of that. I said what I always said. I'm sorry, Dad. I'll call Jennifer and apologize. Good. And Gabriella, your 30th birthday is coming up in 2 months. We're planning something at the house. Try to show up on time for once and maybe… Another pause. Maybe wear something nice. First impressions matter. He hung up before I could respond. I stood there with the phone against my ear for another 30 seconds, listening to dead air. My hand was shaking. I set the phone down on the counter and noticed my reflection in the microwave door, dark circles under my eyes, hair pulled back so tight it gave me a headache, jaw clenched so hard I could feel it in my temples. Something my mother used to say floated back to me. I was 7, maybe 8. She was braiding my hair on the back porch, her fingers gentle against my scalp. Little bird, she'd whispered. Sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones you need protecting from. Remember that. I didn't understand then. I do now. Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time is it there. Let me take you back 16 years to when I was 12. My mother was still alive then. Still the only person in our house who made me feel like I wasn't constantly disappointing everyone just by existing. It was a Saturday in October. I remember because the kitchen smelled like the cinnamon rolls she only made on fall weekends. Yeast and sugar and butter, the scent so thick you could taste it. I was sitting at the table doing homework, and she was rolling dough, her hands dusted with flour up to her wrists. Gabby, she said softly. She was the only one who called me that. I want you to make me a promise. I looked up from my math worksheet. What kind of promise? She wiped her hands on her apron and sat down across from me. Her eyes were serious, brown like mine, with those same flecks of gold near the iris. I want you to promise me that you'll never let anyone make you small. Not your father, not your sister, not anyone. She reached across the table and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. You're going to want to fold yourself up to fit in their boxes, little bird, but you're not meant for boxes. Okay, I said, not really understanding, but wanting to make her happy. She smiled, but it was sad. I won't always be here to remind you, so I'm reminding you now. You hear me? I hear you, Mama. She died 4 months later. Aneurysm. She collapsed in the garden on a Wednesday afternoon while planting tulip bulbs. My father found her at 4:47 p.m. when he got home from work. I was at school, taking a history test, completely unaware that my entire world was ending. The first betrayal happened at her funeral. I was standing near the mahogany casket in my black dress, the one that was too short because I'd grown 3 inches that year, and no one had noticed I needed new clothes. The visitation room at Hoffman Funeral Home smelled like lilies and wood polish, and something chemical they used to preserve things that couldn't be preserved. Jennifer stood next to my father, greeting relatives. She was 16, beautiful in the way that made adults stop and stare. Long dark hair, perfect posture, the kind of poise I'd never have. She wore a designer black dress that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. Aunt Donna approached, my mother's sister, her eyes red and swollen. She hugged Jennifer first, then my father, then turned to me. "Gabriella, sweetheart." She cupped my face in her hands. "Your mama loved you so much. You know that, right?" I nodded because my throat was too tight to speak. That's when my father's voice cut through. "Gabriella, stop monopolizing your aunt. Other people want to pay their respects." I stepped back immediately. Aunt Donna's hands dropped. "Richard, I was just—" "It's fine, Donna." He put his arm around Jennifer, pulling her close. "This one's taking it especially hard. She was always Helen's favorite, very dependent on her mother." He looked at me, and his expression was almost pitying. "We're worried about her." The room tilted slightly. Dependent, like I was weak, like I was the problem. Aunt Donna frowned but didn't argue. People rarely argued with my father. That night, after everyone left, I overheard him talking to Jennifer in the kitchen. I was upstairs, supposed to be sleeping, but I'd come down to get water and heard their voices through the doorway. "She's going to need a lot of support," my father was saying. "Your mother babied her, never made her grow up. Now look at her, can't even hold it together for a few hours." "She was crying in front of everyone," Jennifer said. "It was embarrassing." "I know, sweetheart. But that's why you and I need to be strong. Someone has to hold this family together." I stood in the hallway in my bare feet, holding an empty glass, and felt something crack open inside my chest. I was 12 years old. My mother had been dead for 6 days, and I was already the problem. Over the next few months, the narrative solidified. My father told relatives I was struggling. Teachers at school received calls. Concerned father, worried about his daughter's mental state after losing her mother. Could they keep an eye on me? I wasn't struggling. I was grieving. But grief apparently looked like weakness in our house. By the time I turned 13, the story was set. Jennifer was the strong one, the responsible one, the daughter who didn't fall apart. I was fragile, needy, unable to cope. And the worst part? I started to believe it. I spent my teenage years trying to prove them wrong. Perfect grades, never asking for anything, making myself as invisible as possible. I worked at the Dairy Queen starting at 16, saved every paycheck, paid for my own school supplies, my own clothes, my own everything. But it was never enough. When I graduated high school, my father took Jennifer out to celebrate her acceptance to Cornell. She was finishing her sophomore year there. They went to Vincenzo's, the expensive Italian place downtown, and posted photos on Facebook. Her in a wine-red dress, him beaming with pride. I graduated 2 days later. Top 15% of my class. I got a card with $50 in it and a note. "Proud of you. Maybe community college to start? Dad." I used that $50 to buy interview clothes. I got hired at the front desk of Meridian Insurance 3 weeks later, answering phones for $13.50 an hour. I was 18, living in my father's house, paying $400 monthly rent from my receptionist's salary, while he told relatives I lived there for free because she can't manage on her own. I found out about the rent lie when I was 19. Cousin Tony mentioned it at Christmas. "Your dad's so generous, letting you stay rent-free while you get on your feet." I corrected him. Showed him my bank statements, 8 months of $400 withdrawals with dad, rent in the memo line. Tony frowned. "Huh, that's weird. Richard told everyone." He trailed off. Didn't finish the sentence. Didn't confront my father. That was the pattern. People saw the cracks but never said anything. It was easier to believe my father's version, the devoted single dad, the struggling daughter. The public humiliation came when I was 22. I'd been working at Meridian for 4 years, still at the front desk, but picking up bookkeeping skills on the side. I'd enrolled in an online certificate program, paying $180 monthly out of pocket. I was halfway through, proud of myself for the first time in years. I was at Rosewood Diner on my lunch break, sitting in a booth by the window with my course materials spread out in front of me. I had 45 minutes to review journal entries before my shift ended. The door chimed. I looked up. My father and Jennifer walked in. My stomach clenched immediately. They didn't usually come to this part of town. Jennifer lived in Manhattan now, working some consulting job. She was only home for the weekend. They saw me. I watched my father's expression shift. Surprise, then something harder. They walked over. Gabriella. He didn't smile. Studying? Yeah, just reviewing some bookkeeping. He picked up one of my worksheets, scanned it, set it down. Still doing that online thing? I'm almost done with the certification. Another 3 months and then what? Jennifer slid into the booth across from me, uninvited. She was wearing a cream-colored cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent. You'll magically get a better job? Gabby, you've been at that insurance desk for 4 years. I'm learning skills that you're wasting money on a certificate no one cares about. My father remained standing, arms crossed. His voice wasn't loud, but 3 tables nearby could definitely hear. I've told you this. You want real advancement? You need a degree, 4-year university. But you didn't want that, did you? Too hard. Too much commitment. My face burned. I couldn't afford university. And you said community college was good enough. I said it was a start. I didn't say stay there forever. He shook his head slowly. Your sister has a master's degree. She's pulling 6 figures. You're 22? Making what? 30,000 a year? 28, I said quietly. Jennifer's expression was almost sympathetic. Almost. Gabby, we're saying this because we love you. But you have to start making better choices. This bookkeeping thing, it's just another distraction. Another way to avoid real work. The older couple 2 tables over glanced at us, then quickly looked away. The waitress, Donna, not my aunt, different Donna, approached with menus. Can I get you folks started with? We're not staying, my father said. Then to me, we're meeting clients at Marcello's, just stopped in to grab Jennifer's prescription from the pharmacy next door. He pulled out his wallet, took out a 20, placed it on my bookkeeping worksheet. Lunch is on me, get something decent, you're too thin. I didn't touch the money. They left. I sat there, hands shaking, staring at the $20 bill on top of my journal entry homework. The couple 2 tables over whispered to each other. Donna the waitress gave me a pitying look when she brought my coffee refill. I gathered my materials, left the 20 on the table, paid for my own coffee with money from my wallet, and walked back to work. Something hardened in me that day. Something small but important. I didn't cry. I didn't call them later to apologize for being an embarrassment. I just went home, logged into my online course, and studied for 3 hours. I finished the certificate program in 2 months. Top of my class. I started taking freelance bookkeeping clients, small businesses, individuals, anyone who needed help organizing their finances. I charged $45 an hour and worked weekends. Within 6 months, I had 8 regular clients. I was making an extra $1,400 monthly. I moved out of my father's house 2 weeks before my 23rd birthday. I didn't tell him I was leaving. I just packed my things while he was at work, loaded everything into my 2004 Honda Civic, and left my key on the kitchen counter with a note. Thank you for everything. I'll be in touch. I rented a studio apartment in the industrial part of town for $750 a month. It was small, 400 square feet, linoleum floors, a radiator that clanked, windows that faced a brick wall. But it was mine. I got a second job bartending Thursday through Saturday nights at the Copper Still, a gastropub near the university. $12 an hour plus tips. I averaged $220 per weekend night. My schedule: front desk at Meridian, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. Freelance bookkeeping clients 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., Tuesday and Wednesday. Bartending 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sundays were for bookkeeping catch-up and sleeping. I was exhausted. I was also saving 60% of my income. My father called 3 days after I moved out. "What the hell were you thinking?" No greeting. No "how are you settling in," just anger. "You just leave? Without discussing it? Without a plan?" "I have a plan, Dad. I'm working 2 jobs. You're going to fail. You know that, right? You can't afford to live alone. You're going to come crawling back here in 3 months, begging for help." I didn't answer. "Gabriella, I'm trying to protect you. This is a mistake. You're not ready for—" "I have to go, Dad. I'm late for my shift." I hung up. He called Jennifer. Jennifer called me. "Gabby, what's going on? Dad says you moved out without telling anyone. He's really hurt." "I'm 23, Jen. I don't need permission to—" "It's not about permission. It's about respect. About family. You could have at least told us." "Would you have supported it?" Silence. "That's what I thought," I said. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," she said finally. "Dad's just worried about you. We both are. You've always been impulsive." Impulsive. That was a new word for me. Added to the collection. Dependent, fragile, struggling, distracted. Now impulsive. "I have to go," I said. I hung up on her too. Over the next year, my father started a new campaign. He told relatives I'd run off without a plan and was living in a dangerous neighborhood. He mentioned to Aunt Donna that I'd stopped taking his calls, and he was worried about my mental state. The truth? I lived in a safe, if industrial, area. I had 2 jobs, 8 bookkeeping clients, $18,000 in savings, and a credit score that had climbed to 710. But the story he told was more compelling. At Thanksgiving that year, Uncle Marco pulled me aside. "Your dad says you're not doing so well. Financially, I mean. If you need help—" "I'm fine, Uncle Marco. Actually, I'm saving for—" "Pride's a dangerous thing, Gabby. We're family. There's no shame in asking for help." He pressed an envelope into my hand. "Just a little something to help with rent or groceries or whatever you need. Don't tell your dad. He'd insist on being the one to help you, and he's already doing so much." I opened it later. $300 in cash and a note. "For Gabriella's rent. Uncle Marco." I tried to return it. He refused. "Your dad told me you're barely scraping by. I want to help." I accepted it. I didn't know what else to do. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't discover until much later, was that my father told Uncle Marco I was 3 months behind on rent and too proud to ask for help. He told Aunt Donna I couldn't afford groceries. He told my cousins I was in $20,000 credit card debt from bad decisions, and he was secretly helping me make minimum payments. None of it was true, but the checks kept coming. From Uncle Marco, from Aunt Donna, from Cousin Lisa and Cousin Anthony and Aunt Teresa. Small amounts, $200 here, $300 there. Always with notes like, "Hope this helps," and "Don't be too proud to accept love." I tried to refuse. They insisted. They thought they were helping me survive. I didn't find out until much later that every single one of those checks, $18,200 worth over the course of 3 years, went to my father's address. He'd told them to send the money to him, and he'd make sure I got it. I never saw a dollar. When I was 25, I bought my first property. It was a tiny duplex in the south part of town, listed at $87,000. Needed work. New roof, updated electrical, cosmetic repairs. But the bones were good, and the location was improving. I'd saved $32,000. I put down $17,400, 20%, kept $10,000 for repairs, and financed the rest. I spent 4 months fixing it up myself. YouTube tutorials, borrowed tools, weekends on my hands and knees installing laminate flooring. I rented out both units for $725 each. After mortgage, taxes, and insurance, I cleared $340 monthly profit. I bought the second property 8 months later. A small single-family, $93,000, same strategy. Third property at 27. A triplex, $164,000. Higher risk, higher reward. By the time I turned 28, I had 3 properties generating $4,200 in combined monthly profit. I'd been promoted to Senior Administrative Coordinator at Meridian, earning $52,000 annually. I still took freelance bookkeeping clients 2 nights a week, another $1,800 monthly. My total income, $78,600 annually. I'd also been carefully documenting everything. Every pay stub, every bank statement, every rental agreement, every mortgage payment. I kept it all in a fireproof safe in my apartment. I didn't know why. Just instinct. My mother's voice in the back of my head. Protect yourself, little bird. My father didn't know about the properties. Neither did Jennifer. I'd stopped sharing details about my life with them years ago. They assumed I was still scraping by, still struggling, still the fragile daughter who couldn't manage on her own. I let them assume. Then, 2 months before my 30th birthday, something happened. I got called into my manager's office at Meridian. Patricia Chen, Director of Operations. She'd been my boss for 3 years, supported my promotion, written recommendation letters for my mortgage applications. Gabriella, sit down. Her expression was serious. My stomach dropped. Is something wrong? I received a call yesterday. From your father. She folded her hands on her desk. He expressed some concerns about your mental health. The room went cold. He said you've been unstable lately. Erratic. He mentioned you have a history of making impulsive decisions, and he's worried about your judgment. He asked if we'd noticed any concerning behavior at work. I couldn't breathe. What did you tell him? I told him that personnel matters are confidential and that I couldn't discuss your employment with anyone, including family, without your written consent. She paused. Gabriella, I'm telling you this because I want you to be aware. He also mentioned he was concerned about your recent promotion, said he didn't think you were ready for the responsibility. My hands clenched in my lap. My performance reviews have been excellent. I know. That's why I'm bringing this to you instead of taking it seriously. Patricia leaned forward. But I need to ask, is everything okay? Is there something going on that I should know about? My father and I have a complicated relationship, I said carefully. He has opinions about my life choices, but my mental health is fine. My work performance speaks for itself. She nodded slowly. Okay. I trust you to tell me if something changes. And Gabriella, document this conversation. If your father calls again, I'll be documenting it too. I left her office shaking with rage. He'd called my boss. He'd tried to sabotage my promotion. He was still, after all these years, trying to control the narrative. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced my apartment until 2 a.m., then sat down at my kitchen table and made a list of every lie I knew he'd told. Every fabricated story, every intercepted check I'd only learned about later from relatives who thought I'd received their help. The list was 3 pages long. I didn't know what to do with it. Confronting him would be pointless. He'd deny everything, twist it around, make me the villain. But something was building, something inevitable. 2 weeks later, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Postmarked from a law office in the city. Whitmore and Associates. Inside, a letter on cream-colored stationery, handwritten in a script I'd recognize anywhere. My mother's handwriting. I sat down on my couch and stared at it for a full minute before I could bring myself to open it. My dearest Gabriella, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and your father is already doing exactly what I knew he would do. I'm so sorry, little bird. I tried to stop this while I was alive, but he doesn't hear reason. He only hears documents. Do you remember that Saturday I made cinnamon rolls and asked you to promise me you'd never let anyone make you small? I meant it. You're not meant for boxes. The original trust document I created for you is with my attorney, David Whitmore. His office is at 847 Lakeshore Avenue, Suite 302. The copy I've left you isn't enough to prove anything on its own, but it's enough for you to know I'm telling the truth. Inside this envelope, you'll also find copy of trust fund I established for you, $47,000 remaining balance after your father's unauthorized withdrawals. David has the full accounting. Copies of 23 checks from relatives totaling $18,200, all sent to our home address for Gabriella. Postal receipts proving your father collected and deposited them into his personal account. Medical records showing I was of sound mind when I created this trust. Letters I wrote to Aunt Donna and Uncle Marco explaining what I knew your father would do. Don't show this to anyone yet. Not your father, not Jennifer, not even Aunt Donna. Wait until the right time. David will know what to do. You are not struggling. You are not fragile. You are not dependent. You are my daughter, and you are stronger than your father will ever understand. All my love, your mama. Little bird, remember to fly. I read it 3 times. Then I pulled out the other documents, the copies of the checks, all made out to me, all endorsed by my father, all deposited into his account. 23 checks over 3 years. Uncle Marco's $300. Aunt Donna's $500. Cousin Lisa's $200. All of it. $18,200 that was meant for me, that my father had told people I'd received, that funded his story of being my secret financial support. The trust document showed my mother had set up a $65,000 fund for me when I was 10. Education, housing, emergency expenses. My father was listed as trustee until I turned 25. The accounting showed he'd withdrawn $18,000 over the years, authorized for Gabriella's living expenses, when I was 18 to 22. I'd never seen a dollar of it. I'd been paying him $400 monthly rent while living in his house. He'd been withdrawing money from my trust to support me. I sat on my couch with these documents spread around me and laughed, not because it was funny, because the alternative was screaming. My phone rang. My father. I answered. Gabriella, we need to talk about your birthday party. His voice was brisk, businesslike. We're planning something nice. 30 is a milestone. Jennifer's flying in. The whole family will be there. Okay? I'm thinking Saturday the 18th, 6 p.m. at the house. We'll do dinner, cake, maybe some speeches. He paused. I know we've had our differences, but you're still my daughter. I want to celebrate you. The documents were on my lap, my mother's handwriting staring up at me. That sounds nice, Dad. Good. And Gabriella? Please try to dress appropriately. It's going to be the whole family, first impressions and all. I hung up and immediately called David Whitmore's office. The receptionist transferred me. A man's voice, warm and professional. This is David Whitmore. Mr. Whitmore, my name is Gabriella Rossi. I just received a letter from my mother, Helen Rossi, along with some documents. She said you... Gabriella. His tone shifted, became gentler. I've been waiting for this call for a long time. How are you? I don't understand. My mother died 16 years ago. I know. She came to see me when you were 10 years old. She was very specific about her instructions. He paused. She asked me to wait until you contacted me directly. She said you'd know when the time was right. I take it the time is right? My father just invited me to my birthday party. The whole family will be there. Ah. A long pause. And would you like certain truths to come out at that party? I would. Then we have 2 weeks to prepare. Can you come to my office tomorrow? I could. The next day, I sat in David Whitmore's office on the third floor of a building overlooking the lake. He was in his late 60s, gray hair, kind eyes, a framed photo of my mother on his credenza. "She was one of my first clients," he said, following my gaze. "Brilliant woman. She knew exactly what your father was and exactly what he'd do once she was gone. He showed me everything, the full trust accounting, the original will she'd written, which my father had quietly lost after her death, the letters she'd written to relatives held in escrow to be delivered after specific events. She knew he'd intercept money people sent you. She documented his behavior for years, controlling, financially manipulative, emotionally abusive to you, and enabling to your sister. She couldn't divorce him while she was alive. Too risky. He'd have fought for custody and used his resources to paint her as unstable. So she planned for after. Why didn't you contact me before now? Because she asked me not to. She said you needed to become strong on your own first, that if I swooped in too early, you'd never believe in your own ability to survive him. He smiled sadly. She was right, wasn't she? Look at what you've built. 3 properties, a career, financial independence. You did that without anyone's help. My throat was too tight to speak. Your mother left instructions for what to do when you were ready. She said I'd know because you'd call me after your father tried one last time to destroy you. He tapped the file. I assume his call to your employer qualifies? How did you? I've been monitoring from a distance. Your mother set up a small fund to pay for a private investigator to document your father's behavior. Nothing invasive, just public records, social media, the occasional discreet inquiry. We needed evidence that would hold up. He opened a folder. We have 8 years of documentation. Every lie he told, every check he intercepted, every violation of the trust, every defamatory statement. We even have a recording from last year's Christmas dinner where he told 30 relatives you were in $20,000 of credit card debt. We had someone at that dinner with a voice recorder. Who? Your Aunt Donna. Your mother told her everything before she died, asked her to wait, to watch, to gather evidence. Donna's been feeding me information for years. I felt dizzy. Aunt Donna knew? Your mother trusted 3 people. Me, Donna, and your Uncle Marco. They've been documenting everything, waiting for you to be ready. He slid a folder across the desk. This is what we're going to present at your birthday party. Full accounting of the stolen funds, copies of every check, bank statements, the original trust document, your mother's letters, testimony from Donna and Marco, and, this is the important part, we're not accusing him, we're just presenting facts. He'll deny it. He will, which is why we have a notarized statement from the bank confirming the deposits into his account. We have postal receipts. We have video footage from the bank's security cameras showing him depositing checks made out to you. David leaned back. Gabriella, your mother spent the last 2 years of her life building an airtight case. She knew she wouldn't be here to protect you, so she made sure the truth would protect you instead. I spent the next 2 weeks preparing. David coached me on what to say, how to stay calm, how to let the evidence speak for itself. Don't yell, don't cry, don't justify. Just state facts and let him self-destruct. The night before my birthday party, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my mother, 16 years ago, sitting in David Whitmore's office while I was at school, planning all of this. She'd been dying and she'd spent her last months protecting me from something that hadn't even happened yet. Saturday arrived. I drove to my father's house at 5:45 p.m. The house I'd grown up in, where I'd paid rent I didn't owe, where I'd been called dependent and fragile and struggling. Cars lined the street. My father's house was lit up, warm and welcoming. I could see people through the windows, relatives, family, friends, neighbors. I parked across the street and sat in my car for 5 minutes. In my purse, the folder David had prepared. My mother's letter, and the keys to my 3 properties attached to a keychain that said, self-made. At 5:58 p.m., I walked up to the front door. Jennifer answered. She looked perfect. Navy dress, styled hair, professional makeup. Gabby, you made it! She hugged me, then stepped back and looked at my outfit. Oh, you wore that. I was wearing black slacks and a white blouse. Professional, appropriate. Come in, everyone's here. The house was packed. At least 40 people, aunts, uncles, cousins, my father's colleagues, neighbors. A long dining table was set up, covered with food. A cake sat at the center, vanilla with white frosting. Happy 30th Gabriella in blue script. My father appeared from the kitchen. Gabriella! He hugged me, stiff and performative. So glad you could make it, and only… He checked his watch. 4 minutes late. That's a record. Polite laughter from nearby guests. We sat down for dinner. I was placed at the far end of the table, near the kitchen door. Jennifer sat next to my father at the head, naturally. The meal was fine. Pasta, salad, bread. People asked me polite questions. How's work, Gabriella? Good. I was promoted to senior administrative coordinator last year. Oh, that's wonderful. My father's voice cut in from the other end of the table. She works very hard, puts in long hours. Sometimes I worry she doesn't have much of a life outside work, but… He shrugged. At least she's employed. More polite laughter. Jennifer added. Gabby's always been career-focused. It's admirable, really. Dessert was served. The cake was cut. People sang happy birthday. I blew out the candles. Then came the speeches. Uncle Marco went first, telling a story about me at age 8, falling off a bike. She got right back up. Never cried. That's Gabriella. Tough as nails. Aunt Donna went next. Her speech was shorter. Gabriella, your mother would be so proud of who you've become. I know I am. Her eyes met mine across the table. She knew what was coming. Then my father stood. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight to celebrate my daughter's 30th birthday. He smiled, raised his wine glass. 30 is a big milestone. It's when we're supposed to have our lives together, career, house, family. And Gabriella, he paused, looked at me with something that might have been affection if you didn't know better. Gabriella is still figuring it out, but that's okay. Everyone moves at their own pace. Jennifer nodded sympathetically. I know it's been hard for her, he continued. Living alone, working multiple jobs, trying to make ends meet. She's too proud to ask for help, but that's just who she is. Independent to a fault. He chuckled. I've tried to help over the years, we all have, but she insists on doing everything herself, even when it's clearly not working. Aunt Donna's jaw tightened. The truth is, my father said, his voice dropping into that serious paternal tone, I worry about her. She'll never afford a house, not with her financial situation. She can barely afford lunch most days. I've offered to help with a down payment, co-sign a loan, but she refuses. Too stubborn. He looked around the table. Everyone was listening. So tonight, I want to say this. Gabriella, I know you think you have to prove something. I know you think you have to do this alone, but you don't. We're family. Let us help you. Stop being so proud. There's no shame in accepting support. He raised his glass. To Gabriella, may her 30s be the decade she finally lets people in. To Gabriella, everyone echoed. I didn't drink. I stood up slowly. The table went quiet. Thank you, Dad. That was illuminating. I reached into my purse and pulled out the keychain. 3 keys, brass, silver, steel. I walked to the head of the table and placed them in front of him. You said I'll never afford a house. These are the keys to my 3 properties. The duplex on Sycamore Street, the single family on Hawthorne, the triplex on Northwest 23rd Avenue. Combined value, $344,000. Combined equity, $127,000. Monthly rental income, $4,200. The room was silent. My father stared at the keys. What are you… You said I can barely afford lunch. My annual income is $78,600 between my job at Meridian, my freelance bookkeeping clients, and my rental properties. My credit score is 782. I have $42,000 in savings. Jennifer's face had gone pale. You told everyone I'm financially struggling, that I'm too proud to accept help. But the truth is, I never needed help. What I needed was for you to stop stealing from me. Gabriella, my father's voice was sharp. Warning. I nodded to Aunt Donna. She stood, pulled a folder from her bag, and walked to the table. Richard, these are copies of 23 checks that relatives sent to Gabriella over the past 8 years. All sent to your address because you told everyone she was struggling and too proud to accept help directly. All deposited into your personal bank account. Total, $18,200. She opened the folder, spread the copies across the table. Check after check, all made out to me, all endorsed by my father. Uncle Marco stood next. I sent 3 checks totaling $900. You told me Gabriella was behind on rent. Cousin Lisa. I sent $500. You said she couldn't afford groceries. Aunt Teresa. I sent $350. You said she was in debt. My father's face had drained of color. This is ridiculous. I was holding that money for her. I was going to give it to her when... When? I asked quietly. I'm 28 years old. When were you planning to give me $18,200 you've had for 8 years? He didn't answer. David Whitmore stood from where he'd been sitting quietly near the back. I'm David Whitmore, Helen Rossi's attorney. I have here the original trust document Helen established for Gabriella when she was 10 years old. Richard was named trustee. The trust was valued at $65,000. As of this morning, the balance is $47,000. Richard withdrew $18,000 over the years for Gabriella's living expenses. He walked to the table, placed the document down. Gabriella never received any distributions from this trust. During the years Richard was making withdrawals, 2016 through 2020, Gabriella was paying him $400 monthly rent to live in his house. She has bank statements proving it. My father stood abruptly. You're twisting this. I was helping her. She needed... I have my bank statements from those years, I said. I paid for everything myself. Rent to you, groceries, insurance, utilities, school, everything. I never received a dollar from the trust or from the family money you collected. Uncle Marco was staring at my father. Richard, you told me she was on the verge of eviction. You said you were secretly covering her rent. I was protecting her. My father's voice rose. She was making terrible decisions. Living alone, working herself to death, refusing help. Someone had to manage her money because she clearly couldn't. I didn't give you permission to manage my money, I said. I didn't even know the money existed. Jennifer spoke for the first time. Gabby, you're blowing this out of proportion. Dad was trying to help. He called my boss. I looked at her. 2 weeks ago. Told her I was mentally unstable, tried to undermine my promotion. Patricia Chen, who I'd quietly invited, stood from her seat near the back. I'm Patricia Chen, Gabriella's supervisor at Meridian Insurance. I can confirm that Richard Rossi called my office and expressed concerns about Gabriella's mental health and her fitness for her position. Gabriella's performance reviews have been exemplary. She was promoted based on merit. The room was utterly silent now. My father looked around wildly. You're all believing this? She's been planning this. She's trying to humiliate me in front of everyone. This is exactly the kind of manipulative... Dad, I kept my voice level. I have receipts, bank statements, legal documents, voice recordings from family dinners where you told people I was in $20,000 of credit card debt. I've never had credit card debt. I've never missed a payment on anything. I've never needed anyone's financial help because I've been supporting myself since I was 18. The bookkeeping certificate I earned, I paid for it myself. The properties I bought, I saved for them myself, working 2 jobs, 60-hour weeks. The promotion I got, I earned it. Everything you told people I couldn't do, I did. Without you. Without anyone. I pulled out my mother's letter. And I know you're going to say I'm lying, that I'm mentally unstable, that I'm making this up. But Mom knew you'd do this. She knew 16 years ago, when she was dying, that you'd steal from me and lie about me and try to sabotage my life. So she left me this. I read the letter out loud, every word. By the time I finished, Aunt Donna was crying. Uncle Marco looked sick. Half the table was staring at my father in horror. Jennifer was the first to speak. That's not... Dad wouldn't... Jennifer, Aunt Donna said quietly. I was there when your mother wrote that letter. I witnessed it. She asked me to keep records, to document everything Richard said about Gabriella, to wait until Gabriella was ready to hear the truth. I've been waiting for 8 years. My father sat down heavily. His face was gray. You don't understand. I was trying to protect her. Helen didn't understand how hard the world is. Gabriella needed structure, discipline, someone to steal from her? Uncle Marco's voice was hard. Richard, we've been sending money to help Gabriella for years. You pocketed it all. I was going to give it back. When? I asked again. When I was 40, 50, never? He had no answer. I picked up the keys from the table. I don't need your help. I don't need your money. I don't need your approval. I never did. What I needed was for you to stop lying about me. I looked around the table. I'm not here for an apology. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because the truth matters. My mother died trying to protect me from this, and I'm not going to let her sacrifice be for nothing. I turned to leave. Gabriella, wait. Jennifer's voice was small. I didn't know. I swear I didn't. Yes, you did. I looked at her. You stood next to him for 8 years while he told everyone I was failing. You never once asked me if it was true. You never once defended me. You believed him because it was easier than questioning him. She didn't deny it. I walked to the door. Aunt Donna followed me out. On the front porch, she hugged me tightly. Your mama would be so proud, little bird. She called me that. I know. She told me everything. Donna pulled back, held my shoulders. You did the right thing, the hard thing, the thing she knew you'd have the strength to do when the time came. I drove home alone, let myself into my apartment, made tea, sat by the window. The next morning, my phone had 47 missed calls. Relatives, family friends, people I hadn't spoken to in years. I listened to 3 voicemails. Uncle Marco. Gabriella, I'm so sorry. I should have asked you directly. I should have verified. Please call me back. Cousin Lisa. I can't believe he did that. I sent that money for you. I'm so angry I can't even. Please let me know if there's anything I can do. Jennifer. Gabby, we need to talk. Please. I'm staying at a hotel. He's not handling this well. People are asking questions. Uncle Marco is threatening legal action. Please call me. I didn't call anyone back. Not yet. 3 days later, I visited my mother's grave. I hadn't been there in months. The headstone was simple. Helen Marie Rossi, 1965 to 2008, beloved wife and mother. I sat on the grass and told her everything. The party, the letter, the truth finally coming out. You were right, Mama, about all of it, about him, about me needing to be strong first, about the timing. I traced her name on the stone. I wish you were here. But I guess, in a way, you were. You've been protecting me this whole time. The wind rustled through the trees. It sounded like her voice. Little bird, remember to fly. 6 months later, I sold the triplex for $192,000, $28,000 profit. I used the money to buy a small house in the Arts District. 2 bedrooms, a garden, a porch where I could drink coffee and watch the sunrise. I still work at Meridian. Still take bookkeeping clients. Still own the duplex and the single-family rental. My father tried to contact me 4 times. I didn't respond. David Whitmore handled all legal communication. The trust was dissolved, the remaining $47,000 transferred to an account in my name. My father didn't contest it. Uncle Marco and Aunt Donna recovered their money through small claims court. He didn't fight that either. Jennifer and I had coffee once, 2 months after the party. She apologized, said she was horrified by what Dad had done, asked if we could rebuild our relationship. I said, maybe someday, but not now. I need space. She cried. I didn't. We haven't spoken since. I don't hate my father. I don't hate Jennifer. But I don't trust them either. And I've learned that's okay. Love doesn't require trust, but relationships do. If you're watching this, and you've ever been called too sensitive, too proud, too difficult, too anything, listen to me. Those words are tools. They're designed to make you shrink, to make you doubt yourself, to make you easier to control. You don't need anyone's permission to have value, but you do need to give yourself permission to walk away from people who can't see it. My mother knew I was strong before I did. She planned for the day I'd finally believe it. I believe it now. I'm sitting on my porch right now. The sun is setting, turning everything gold. I can smell the jasmine growing on the fence, the same kind my mother used to plant. There's a small box on the table next to me. Inside, her letter, the trust documents, and the keychain that says self-made. I don't need to prove anything anymore. Not to him, not to anyone. But I keep the keys anyway, as a reminder. If you've ever had to walk away from someone you love to protect yourself, type, I walked away in the comments. Or if you chose to stay and fight for your boundaries, type, I stayed and fought. Both are brave. Both are valid. If this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here.